Welcome, my friends. I'm Dave Champion. This is my stupendous co-host, Bill Carnes, and together we are totally unprepared.
So I came a little prepared. You usually wear kind of loud shirts.
Loud,
so
I love that
I wore
one.
my pineapple shirt, which otherwise my girlfriend has banned from being worn.
I think that's a cool shirt.
Yeah, well, I think it's cool too, but the thing is, guys that wear like these kinds of shirts think that they're kind of cool.
Yeah.
But evidently women can't stand them.
Huh.
Last time I wore this shirt was the last time I was in Hawaii, like 4 years ago.
Well, it does sort of have that Tom Selleck Hawaii 5-0 feel. By the way, we should tell the audience, like, since we're both in tropical shirts today, we do not call and coordinate our wardrobe. This was
the best guess. This was the best guess, yeah. So,
okay, so what are we going to talk about? We've got some things that we talked about at lunch today that are just appalling.
Yeah, let's start off with a newer one, and this is all cop stuff, by the way. This is all cops doing all bad things. The first one starts off in Independence, Missouri, with a cop who pulls over a 17-year-old kid, can't seem to articulate why, and this kid, as a matter of fact...
Oh, wait. I loved this. There was a reason that he articulated in his report, because he wanted to arrest a girl that had an outstanding warrant who was not present in the vehicle.
Right, there was one 17-year-old boy in there.
Right there. Violation of the Constitution of the United States of America. Unbelievable.
So, as it turns out, the 17-year-old kid is the son of a Kansas City, Missouri police officer. They're in Independence, Missouri, which I believe is a suburb right outside.
And hence knows his rights.
Knows his rights. And the cop goes up to the passenger side window. The window's cracked. It's down a bit, but it's not. And the cop tells him, put your window all the way down.
Critical component for the audience, because they don't know what we know. Okay. The law only requires you to lower your window to the extent where you can exchange documents and communicate effectively. So if it's down 3 or 4 inches, that fulfills the requirement of the law. There is zero requirement anywhere, ever, under any circumstances, to roll your window all the way down.
Which is exactly what the cop was demanding.
There you go.
We want it all the way down, and he didn't do it.
Well, no, the driver had control, and the driver wouldn't do it.
Yeah, the driver wouldn't do it. And he was asking him, why he's being stopped. Look, I can hear you fine. It's okay. I can hear you. No, I can hear you. Put it down.
We can communicate effectively.
Yeah. So the cop walked around to the other side, and what the kid didn't do was he didn't lock his door. Yes, the cop immediately threw the door open, demanded to get out of the car. The kid's asking,
why? What did I do?
What did I do? Am I being arrested? The cop starts struggling to get him out. Then he tases him.
Yep.
And he hits him with the taser, and that taser lasted more than 20, I counted, it was like 27 seconds.
Now, for the audience who did not see the video, he's pulling the kid a couple times, and he's reaching into the car, and it's clear he's getting himself worked up, right? He's trying to get this kid out of the car. The kid is not fighting him. The kid is just not getting out of the car. But the command to get out of the car was not lawful, okay? So eventually, since he cannot drag this kid out of the car, and the kid is not voluntarily exiting the car, he pulls out his taser, okay? Now, it's important because this is a distinction in the law. The driver was no threat to the officer. There was no physical threat to the officer's safety by this 17-year-old.
Yeah, he was questioning the unlawful demands of a cop, questioning to get the response, and from there the cop decided, I'm not answering any of this, I am going to force you to comply. Yeah. So out comes the taser.
Based on an unconstitutional stop to begin with.
Right.
Yeah.
So there we have it. He gets the kid out, he's tasing. You can hear the thing crackling in the background. Sounds like I think popcorn is done in less amount of time than this kid was being tased.
Yeah, and this kid is just like, a wet washcloth when the cop is done.
Yeah, he's literally gurgling because he can no longer function. He gets him wrapped in, and keep in mind, this cop's kind of a big guy, hulky, looked like buff.
He was like 6'2", 260, around there.
At least, and like a buff dude, and I don't know if the guy was roided out. Who knows what his deal was, but he picks the kid up.
Little skinny kid.
Yeah, and takes him off, just
handcuffs him.
Handcuffs him. He's face down, from his middle chest up is off of the dash cam video, and just drops the kid face down on the concrete.
He picks him up by his arms and drags him to the point where you can only see the bottom half of the kid's body, but you clearly see the cop is holding the kid by the forearms, so he's probably, almost 3 feet off the ground, his head.
A couple of feet.
The cop drags him to the part where you can't quite see the head, but you can clearly see the angle of the body, and the cop just drops him. Kid's arms are behind his back. He has no ability to protect himself. What happens?
Yeah, the kid's out.
Yeah, the kid, his head smacks into the concrete. He goes into a coma. Okay. He did come out of the coma, but now he has, what was the term they used?
Well, he has paralysis.
Paralysis and like brain trauma issues.
Yes.
That the doctors are saying they don't believe from which he will ever recover.
17-year-old healthy kid.
Yeah. All because he asked the officer why. First of all, we should start all because the officer decided to make an unconstitutional stop. Okay. Then the kid, knowing he hadn't committed any violations of the vehicle code, which should be one of the other reasons to be stopped, okay, says, what have I done? What have I done which deserves an answer from any responsible peace officer? Well, I pulled you over because.
Yeah, that's one of the things that cops tend to forget is, even here, like in Nye County, there's a flow chart that's been at the sheriff's department. I haven't seen it for the last couple of years, but it starts at the bottom from the basic deputy, goes all the way up, and then above sheriff it says citizens of Nye County. So you're actually within, citizens of Nye County are within the chain of command of that deputy, by the way they put that out formally. And if a cop is doing something, you have questions about the legality, you have every right in the world to question that cop. And when cops say, shut up, I'm the one asking the question, say, no, you don't seem to get it. You need to make sure, I need to make sure you're within the law because I'm questioning that, and you're going to have to tell me that. Or, if I believe this to be an unlawful stop or an unlawful arrest, I have every right, and the Supreme Court has ruled that I can resist it. So unless you want me to resist that to whatever level becomes necessary, you better start articulating the law.
And a good example, Nevada Highway Patrol does a good job with training their troopers. When they stop you here in Nevada, they walk up to the vehicle and they say, my name is Trooper Smith. I pulled you over because. Right then, okay?
When I was with Las Vegas Metro, same thing.
Yeah. Because a citizen, two things. First of all, is not required to obey cops just because a cop speaks. A citizen is required to obey a cop as long as the cop is acting within the statutes and at a deeper, more fundamental level, the Constitution. Absent either one of those, a citizen is under no duty or obligation to comply, and I would almost suggest is under a duty, if they want to stand up for what's right, stand up for our rights. They are under a duty not to comply with illegal orders, just like the military and law enforcement. Right. They are not to comply with illegal orders. Why would we comply with illegal orders? Think about it.
So the end result is the cop that dropped this kid, 4 years in prison.
One of the few cases where a jury did the right thing.
Yep.
All too often they're wowed by the fact that the guy has a badge and I was in fear for my life. And immediately the jury turns to jelly and doesn't do the right thing.
And keep this in mind too. The kid recorded this interaction on his own cell phone. The cop grabbed it and tossed it to the side. The Independence Police evidently still has that in their evidence, and that was never even used. They just used the dash cam video.
Yeah, that was enough.
That was enough. So we have that. Plus, we talked about a case almost a year ago out of a smaller suburb outside of Sacramento. I forget the name of which. Lake something or something lake, whatever. And there was a cop by the name of Rodriguez, who drives a little SUV, and he was in this cul-de-sac.
Marked car, marked SUV, uniformed officer.
Sitting right in the middle of the cul-de-sac, literally where people don't tend to drive. And there's a guy standing in his driveway who's hooking up his boat to his trailer, filming him. The cop gets out, pulls his gun out, and starts making demands. Well, we saw the video. I believe we even may have played it on the show.
I think we did.
And the end result now is that officer...
Before we get to the end result, what happened when there was a citizen's complaint, an IA?
Oh, it goes to an IA. They actually hired, if I remember right, a retired IA independent investigator to look into this.
IA means Internal Affairs Investigation.
Who looked into this and said, he didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah. I'd love to know, I think it was two guys, wasn't it? They worked in tandem?
I don't recall.
On this...
I'm totally unprepared to answer that.
The agency farmed out the IA.
Yeah.
But they farmed it out to people who are pro-cop.
Yeah. Handpicked.
I would love to get on this show and have you and I question the two guys that ran the IA. Okay.
I'd love to read their full-on report.
Yeah, because they would have no answers, and we would show right here on this show that they're full of crap.
Yeah. So as it turns out, their result of that investigation was, oh, the cop Rodriguez, he did nothing wrong. It's cool. He was within his duties.
Pulling your gun on somebody who's just standing there with a camera doing this completely
from his own private driveway.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Yeah. They never even spoke to the cop, by the way. There was no interaction between he and the cop initially. The cop pulled up, looked at him, got out of the car, approached him, brought his gun.
Yeah, and he was sitting in the car for like 30 seconds before he ever got out. Even took a picture of the guy who's holding his cell phone camera, right? Took a picture of him from his own car. Then gets out, asks for his ID, and pulls his gun out, holds it to the side the whole time.
Maybe it's one of those secret gun phones.
You never know.
Yeah.
And then from there, now the cop is facing a federal lawsuit from the guy, the homeowner.
Yeah.
Which is good news.
Completely awesome.
And then the last thing we've got is Oklahoma. This is a case where Oklahoma cops are now going to be carrying around some sort of device. Now, and this has to do with civil asset forfeiture. If you're suspected of doing something that falls within that rather generic realm, they can seize it and never even charge you with the crime and keep it. This is as un-American as can be, but the courts, for some reason, have upheld it. And this really started with the big drug wars coming through southeast in Florida and such as that back in the 80s. For some reason, they've stayed, regardless of all the abuse. When I was on Las Vegas Metro, we were opening a new area command, and they were actually trying to find out who they could target for civil asset forfeiture so they could get gym equipment in the about-to-open new facility.
Yeah. Now, if you're in Oklahoma,
how wrong is this?
Here's what the Oklahoma State Troopers are going to have. The device that Bill referenced, it's a card reader. So if they think that you've committed some offense that gives them justification, perhaps, up to the guy standing next to your car, that justifies, if there is such a thing as justifying asset forfeiture, he can use his device from standing outside your car, can read your debit card, can see how much money you have in the bank, and can seize all your money out of the bank account because you have a debit card in your wallet while he's standing next to your car. No warrant, no arrest, no charge, no nothing. He just takes all your money.
So here's the thing. If you've got a wallet, start putting those things in those little aluminum foil packs, or even have the RFID, anti-RFID wallet.
Yeah. Privacy is disappearing in our country.
We'll be right back.
Don't go away. I've got one for you today. What is up with people claiming they love liberty? Right up until somebody engages in an act of liberty that the other person doesn't like. I must tell you, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I've got about 125,000 people following the Dave Champion's Liberty page on Facebook. And I'd be happy with a lot less because there are some people on that page. It's Dave Champion's Liberty page, and they just don't get liberty. Now, perhaps if they stick around long enough, they'll figure it out. But in the meantime, it's incredibly irksome when I read these comments. Let me explain. I put up a video on the Dave Champion's Liberty page where it showed a gentleman, this took place in New York, and he's standing on the sidewalk outside of a state police barracks, what we here in the West Coast would call a police station. But it's for the state troopers, the state highway patrol. And he's got a body cam on. He's ready to film any interaction with cops. And he's got a drone. And he's flying the drone back and forth along the sidewalk out in front of this New York troopers barracks. And doesn't take long until a state trooper comes along, gets out of his car, walks up and says, I want to see some ID and I want to know what you're doing. Now, what have we learned on Totally Unprepared? What have we learned on Dave Champion's YouTube channel? What have we learned on the Dave Champion's Liberty page over the last several years? Well, hopefully what people have learned is a police officer has no right to ask you for jack shit, including your ID, unless he can articulate reasonable suspicion that you are engaged, or a reasonable person could imagine you are engaged in a criminal act, about to commit a criminal act, are engaged in a criminal act, or just committed a criminal act. Short of that, there is no a police officer can have what's called consensual contact with you. In other words, they can come up and say, hey, dude, can I see your ID? If you say, do you have reasonable suspicion? Well, no, I don't. I'm fishing. Well, in that case, I'll decline to show you my ID. And the cop should say, gotcha. I'm going to follow the law. Good on you. Now, if he has reasonable suspicion and he says, look, I'm pulling you over because, or I'm demanding identification because I have reasonable suspicion that, and he can articulate something reasonable, it's the citizen's duty to pony up the ID, right? So knowing this, hopefully having learned this, we understand that in order for this state trooper to have been following and being obedient to the Constitution, that he took an oath to, he has to be able to articulate reasonable suspicion in order to request this gentleman's, demand this gentleman's ID. So the conversation ensues, and the guy says, I don't have to show you my ID. Yes, you do. You're in front of a police station and you're flying a drone. I demand your ID. I demand to know what you're doing here. Well, I don't care what you demand. I mean, the guy's very respectful, but I don't really care what you demand because you don't have a legal right to demand it. And he says, you're flying a drone out in front of a police station. The guy says, yes. And that's legal. And the cop says, I don't care. Unbelievable that he's doing something completely legal. The cop is completely off the constitutional reservation. And the cop says, I don't care. Now, my first thought is, how the hell did douchebags like this ever get out of the police academy? So the encounter continues until a sergeant, by the way, this facility is surrounded by a wrought iron fence. And a state trooper sergeant walks on the interior side, walks up to the wrought iron fence, looks at the two of them, and he apologizes to the guy flying the drone, and he tells the state trooper, you're done, take off. Okay? And I love it. The citizen, as the cop is walking to his car, he says, I hope you've learned something today. I loved it. Now, the part that disturbs me about this is when I posted this on Dave Champion's Liberty Up page on Facebook, about 70% of the comments were against the citizen. I couldn't believe it. Post 9/11, we got to be concerned about terrorism, which my first thought is, well, weren't you properly fucking brainwashed by the government in the last 15 years? Holy cow. And I love the part about, the Constitution. Every government's got to follow the Constitution, especially if you're on the right? Obama, he violates the Constitution, he's a horrible guy. Or if you're on the left, George Bush violates the Constitution, horrible guy. When it's the cop violating the Constitution and the citizen's completely within his rights, these brainwashed morons condemn well, he should have just shown him his ID. Why? We talked about in the first segment, Bill and I, that you, as citizens, we are under a duty not to comply with illegal demands of law enforcement because all we do is feed in to more illegal conduct by cops. Don't you get it? And then there were things, well, it was a setup. He had the microphone on and he was flying the drone. He was just waiting for a confrontation with the cops so he could set them up. Yeah, to catch them violating the law. Unbelievable that people want to condemn that, because when the criminals are on the street, you want them caught, right? And cops go out and conduct undercover investigations and stings in order to catch people violating the law. Well, guess who violates the law a lot? Cops. So why don't we're their bosses, we're the sovereigns, we're the guys, we the people. Why are we not conducting sting operations to catch our servants stealing our silverware? Which is exactly what this guy did. He put on a camera, he did something that was a little bit provocative, and sure enough, he got exactly the response he anticipated, which is that the cops would violate the Constitution. I say, he's a damn hero. I don't get the people who criticize him. I'll tell you what, if you don't like the Constitution, you don't like those boundaries, because you're such a fucking ninny that, oh my God, he was flying a drone in front of a police station. Here's what we're going to do from now on. You've got guns in your house. Right now, effectively now, the government can demand every single fucking registration of every gun you've got in an inventory and all your ammunition, and screw the Second Amendment because you don't give a damn about the Constitution. I said my piece.
Second week in a row, man, you're going to burst a blood vessel in your eye. The engineer's back there rapidly scribbling away all of the timestamps so he can delete everything in there. I mean, fuck, Dave. He's got to write it again now because I'm describing it.
what you can't see is he's holding up a piece of paper with all the notes of things he has to go back into.
Oh.
Got to work myself up a little sweat there.
I got to tell you, the guy inspires me. The drone operator inspires me.
Yeah.
Because I have on a number of occasions considered doing the same sort of thing. Matter of fact, one of the things that grinds my gears that I talked about before is when you have cops that show up, like at our local Walmart, let's take that as a for instance, they'll park in the fire zone. Now the sign says fire zone, not emergency vehicle zone, it says fire zone. Mm-hmm. And that is effectively completely controlled by the state fire marshal. Who gets to park there? It's in the Nevada law. Mm-hmm. Fire zone. A cop will park there for an in-custody hours or nothing else. There's this office that NCSO has been, Nye County Sheriff's has been gifted of, I don't know, maybe 150 square feet or something that's inside Walmart.
Yeah, that little alcove.
Yeah. So when the deputies want to go there, they park in the fire zone and then they walk in that room.
Which you or I would get cited or towed for.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. But they're parked in the fire zone because Walmart said it's okay if you park there. Walmart doesn't control that. No. And the deputies should ought to know. Let's lead by example. A good one.
Right. Well, yeah, Walmart does not trump the fire marshal.
No.
No.
We own the property. You can own the property, but because it is a public conveyance, there are certain laws that you must abide by. This fire zone, which has been designated by the state fire marshal, it's now enforceable. If you are not an emergency fire apparatus that's there on a specific call. Like the fire department isn't even allowed to just park there so the guys can go in there and buy groceries and take them back to the kitchen at the firehouse. That's not allowed within the law.
Yep.
They still do it oftentimes, not necessarily here.
Yeah. Even when I was in a plane wrap unit back in the day, in other words, one of those cars that everybody knows it's a cop car, even though it's not painted cop car colors.
Okay. It's a cop car minus the decal.
Right. And I would be in uniform, but in a plane wrap vehicle. And when I needed to stop to have a meal, I would park in a regular, real life parking spot that everybody else had to park in. The exception was if I was in like a downtown area where there's no parking and you've got to go to a parking structure a block away, I would park in the red, hang my microphone over the rearview mirror. You've probably done that yourself. And that communicates to any of the meter maids. Then they run the plate and they see that it's an agency thing and they don't tow it and they don't cite it. But the reason for that was not convenience so I didn't have to walk a block. I'm on the clock. If a call comes out, I can't be running down the street to get my...
You can't be a block or two from your car.
Correct.
Right.
So the car has to be reasonably close to where... Then that's part of the policy. Your car has to be reasonably close to where you're having your meal. So if there's something like officer needs help, backup call, things like that, you can get to your vehicle. But that was only in those circumstances. If there was plenty of parking spaces nearby, even if there was like, a red spot out front or a loading zone, I would go, because as you say, lead by example. It's not hard.
Here's the thing, man. If all police officers in America operated under a couple of mantras, one is though they're always on film, and people who are looking to find them violating someone's rights or the laws are constantly watching, and lead by example. If those are the type of things that you always had in your mind while you're on the job doing what you're doing, this would be a much better country. And there are cops like that. There are plenty of them out there. Sometimes you'll see these, like there was a video that came out a month or two ago about these cops that went down to, some kids, they got a call because some kids are playing basketball in the street. So what happens? They end up having some of the other cops come and play. As a matter of fact, the kids ended up being orphans. They were living they were out of a, what do they call that? A sort of a house where people bring in the kids, a foster home.
Okay.
One of the cops had connections, and they called Shaquille O'Neal. He came out there, who was also a deputy. He's a deputized reservist. And, by the way, a self-earned PhD. Did you know that? Dr. Shaquille O'Neal.
I did not know
He earned his own PhD 3 years ago while he was still in the NBA. Anyhow, he came out and played basketball with these kids because some ninny is saying, oh, they're making noise out there. Yeah. The cops showed up. Not only is there not noise, we're not busy right now. These kids are foster kids. They're doing a good thing. They're playing basketball instead of getting in trouble. Hey, let's call Shaq.
Yeah.
Now, those are the type of cops we need out there. Yeah. Not the kind like these jackass, like the jackass that takes the 17-year-old kid out and throws his face on the ground, or the one that pulls his gun out because some guy's hooking up his boat trailer, or any of this other garbage that we deal with on a regular basis.
Yeah.
Act as though you are leading by example, and there's always a camera, full video, full audio, and people who want to catch you doing the wrong thing and fire your ass
and here would be my thing.
Are watching.
Constantly operate in the face of the public as if there was a camera on and your children were going to view tomorrow what you did today.
Excellent.
That's it. If you could sit in front of your kids and justify what you did, legitimately justify it, okay. If not, bad cop.
Follow the lead of the good cops. We'll be right back. This is going to be an interesting one. Let's hear. You know what really grinds my gears? Slobs. Just people who are absolute slobs. Now, if you want to be a slob in the privacy of your own home, be a slob. You want to have a car that's a complete pigsty, be that vehicular slob. But out in public, my goodness, have at least a little bit of self-respect. And I get it. Some people, they just don't care. It sets a really bad example, especially for people out there who are trying to get a feel for things. We live in a little town of Pahrump, Nevada, in a small county, small population, large by size, square miles, of Nye County. And there's a number of people that come through here that aren't from here. But if they come through and they see some of the folks that are here, these might be people that might be interested in sticking around. Maybe they're going to get a room, buy some dinner, go do some shopping, whatever it is. But when you put out that you're a bunch of filthy slobs, well, that money, that income that we're getting in the local businesses, helps support the local tax revenue, all that good stuff goes away. It runs people off. Now, I was actually in the post office recently, and there's 4 or 5 people in there, including myself. Of those 4 or 5 people, 2 total slobs, and another one came in after that. And I'm talking hats off. We're talking like grown adults. Hats off to the side, glasses are on crooked, shirt is on, but yet kind of twisted off to the side and wrinkled and hanging, literally hanging off their relatively flaccid upper torso. And their pants or shorts are on, and they're not even kempt, and basically like dragging a foot, like they've got gout or something. But they're not. They're just too lazy to take a proper step. We're not talking about somebody with medical issues. We're talking about somebody who just doesn't give a damn. It's in their head. Walking in like a stinky, unkempt slob. And I felt bad because a lady came in behind the most recent slob. You know, nice lady, in her 30s. She's wearing, designer jeans, a nice top, and a ball cap with her ponytail coming up out the back. By the way, ladies, there are a few things out there that are not necessarily spoken of, but can qualify you as kind of a friendly go-to. You know what? I might want to date that kind of chick. Or if you're dating her, I might want to marry that kind of woman. And there's a couple of things. If you can wear a ball cap with a ponytail coming out the back and be comfortable with it, if you can maybe go with your man to a ball game or even go fishing with him or just hang out outside on a nice day and drink a bottle of beer with him. Those are just things that are cool. It's like your maintenance levels are fairly low. You get it. You can understand. You can hang. Okay? If a guy's got to go and wait for you to get your hair or nails done, shouldn't you be able to sit out back and have a glass of beer? I mean, come on. Anyhow, when these sorts of slobs go around town, I got to tell you, the biggest place for slobs, it is absolutely no secret in our little town, and in most towns, I would imagine, is Walmart. Walmart's got low prices every day, and they have a low price guarantee. So, if you want to save a few bucks, you're a bit of a slob, you're so self-centered that you can't even get ready, you're going to wear your pajamas or your stinky clothes, and you're going to go in, and, it's no big deal. It is not a fashion show there. Well, not a high-end fashion show anyhow. It's more of a slob fest. I was actually one of these like discount stores, like a Family Dollar, I don't remember what it was. One of these discount dollar type stores. Dollar is in the name. And for some reason or other, the line was long that day. There's usually not more than a person or two in front of you. There was like 7 people in line. And I got to tell you, it was the most horrific stench. Because there was a customer in there, some dude, 2 or 3 people in front of me, wearing pants that stunk to high heaven, being absolutely drenched in cat urine. All right, so here's the deal. If you're going to put on a fresh pair of pants, you ought to be taking them out of the closet that's hung up or the dresser where they're put away. So your cat can't get in there. If you're picking them up off of the floor or out of the hamper where there's no lid and the cat can get to it and just piss all over it, that's nasty. That's gross. First of all, you've got a filthy animal. Get rid of it. Or train it. Maybe you should be a better pet owner. If you got a cat that's pissing on everything except the litter box, you're the problem. Get your cat in line. Do a little bit of training. You know, you can go on there and search how to get my cat to use a litter box. There's all kinds of threads, I'm sure. There's probably YouTube videos, so you don't have to waste time reading. You can watch it if you're that lazy. Stop hanging out with yourself at the lowest common denominator you've got. If you've got a little bit of pride, a little bit of sensibility, you're not going to be a slob. If you start forcing yourself into maybe dressing a little bit nicer, bathing a little bit more often, looking a little bit better when you leave the house, you're going to start having a better sense of yourself. And good things will come. If you are a slob and you stay in this long-time, lifelong slobdom, yes, I just created that word, Dave.
Excellent.
Slobdom, you're never going to get out. Dave, do you ever leave the house looking like the sort of thing I'm describing or stenching of animal urine?
That would be no. You know, it's funny because one of the things I joke about, sometimes I'll see somebody out and about, and I'll look at them, and I'll think, wait a second. Did this person, prior to leaving the house, look in the mirror and say,
looking good.
I look good. Because, you know, I think all people with a certain reasonable taste level glance in the mirror before they exit the house, make sure, you know, the hair is where it belongs, the clothing looks decent. It doesn't, you know, you don't have to be a fashion plate, but look acceptable and decent. I mean, you know me, I go around in sleeveless T-shirts and tank tops a lot during the summertime and other times.
But you make sure that your hair's in good order.
That's true. The eyebrows are where they belong, you know, right. and the color, the clothes are always clean. Right, they're, yeah. We know,
except for at the gym. I got to tell you, I seen you at the gym.
That's a different story.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Because I'm all about the comfort at the gym because I'm pushing weights. But the other thing is, and I see this, and I'm probably going to anger a lot of people here in Pahrump because I see this often. You know, I'm 56 years old, and I see people who are my age or just a little bit older, and they're grotesquely overweight. Or they're maybe not grotesquely overweight, maybe just a little overweight. And I see them, for instance, get up out of a restaurant booth, and you know they
all the effort they can muster to stand their fat ass up after a big
and then
meal.
They get up, and they barely can move, you know. And I know that if I sat down and talked to them, they're going to give me all the excuses. Okay, and the reality is they've spent at least the second half of their life sitting on their ever-widening rear ends, doing nothing, and their bodies have gone to crap on them.
Sedentary, absolutely sedentary.
I mean, I was in a motorcycle accident. I destroyed my left knee. I've had both shoulders operated on. I've had this arm operated on twice. I just had TERP, you know, a couple months back, and you know, used to fight full contact, right? Whatever, right? You know, and injuries galore, and of course, being in the lifting weights for 30+ years, you know, there's some injuries along the way, and never once have I said it hurts to do this or that. Let me stop. Never once, because I don't know, I kind of dig life, and I kind of dig being healthy, and I think being healthy in life makes life all the more joyful and happy and satisfying. So to let myself go to the point where I'm overweight or I can barely move and I shuffle like, you know, I'm a 60-year-old shuffling like they're 102 just to get across the floor. Dude.
And I can identify with you, Dave. I am, how old am I now? I am 46.
Okay.
Right? So you've got 10 years on me. And just several months ago, I realized I am far too sedentary, and I'm getting, my body is aging faster than my life is. So I need to get off my ass and do more things. I need to not sit down so often. I need to do more things. I need to take the stairs and not the escalator or the elevator. And I've been doing all these things, and I'm eating slightly smaller portions. I'm eating slightly healthier food. I haven't drank soda in a couple of years, and I'm drinking more water. And by the way, the soda that I do drink is only there to complement the alcohol that's in the same cup.
Oh, well, understandable.
Yeah, and that doesn't happen all that often. However, I've lost about 15 pounds.
I know.
Yeah, and I'm feeling better. I called you, for everybody's information, I called you a couple of weeks ago because in March, I had done a little bit of damage to my left knee. I was, it was actually at the county Republican convention. I was sitting up on the stage that we had there, and the stairs were way inconvenient for me. I would have been walking back and forth behind the convention chair to use the stairs. So I was just hopping up and down in dress shoes, and my knee took a pounding that day. It took a pounding. So I called you and said, look, this is starting to become bothersome. I need to get through it. So you gave me some ideas on some exercise to do, which I've been doing. As a matter of fact, I did some last night.
Cool.
And my knee is starting to feel better. Yeah, because I'm just doing a little bit more. But I can see when people just, oh, I've got the excuse, I don't want to get my way through, because life in America has become so easy.
Yeah, it hurts, so I don't do it.
Yeah.
Okay. In the long run, you're hurting yourself worse. I know you're saying it's painful, but in the end, you're hurting yourself worse. You know, I'll tell you a funny story. I told you I destroyed my left knee in a motorcycle accident. I was actually going home on my...
Yeah, but your motorcycle didn't take a tremendous amount of damage.
No, I ended up off the motorcycle flying through the air, which was
the issue. Yeah, the motorcycle fared better than you did.
So I was on my way home to change into my gym clothes to go to the gym when the accident occurred. So the next day I come in the gym, right? I'm on crutches, and I was supposed to do legs the day before, right? So I'm not going to be cheated out of my leg day. So, you know, it's my knees in this gigantic bandage, and I'm hobbling in on my crutches, and the manager's watching me come in. Of course, I'm always friends because I'm in the gym like every night, so I'm friends with the managers normally. And so I get to I put my crutches down, I hobble around a little bit, and I put a bunch of weights on the leg press, and I sit down, and I put my one damaged leg out to the side, and I'm going to do one leg presses. And I look up, and here's the manager, and he looks at me and goes, Dave, I think maybe you should take a couple days off. I'm like, what are you thinking? Hell no, right? And I completed my entire leg workout on my right undamaged leg. And when I had the surgery for my arm, you know, I was in the gym in this big thing, and like I wanted to work back. I hooked up this sling to the machine, and I'm working my back with, you know, it's like, there's no reason to not do these things unless you just want to be, as you were saying, lazy slob.
Yeah, and a lot of people can, you know, it's funny because my girlfriend who, you know, beautiful girl, very fashionable, she's actually gotten to the point where she doesn't care. She'll wear like sweatpants and a top, like jammy type pants, but she always looks good when she goes. And I prefer she doesn't do it, but at least she looks good doing it.
Yes, she does.
And she doesn't look like a slob. We'll be right back. And welcome back. This is segment 4, where we go through your emails, which, by the way, have been a little bit diminished in the last couple of weeks, so step it back up. Send us your stories, your queries, whatever it is you want us to chat about, and then we'll chat about it, and then we'll decide whether or not you should, out there, hear about it. So send all those to daveandbillshow@gmail.com. That is our email address. We both have access to it, so it'll come on through. Additionally, if you want to catch up on some of the shows or talk about the show, you want to introduce somebody to it, go to totallyunprepared.info. And that, my friends, is exactly where you can find all of the old shows, audio plus video combined. You can see it in print, magazine. It's been converted to PDF, I think. I don't remember. You might even be able to read it in Braille on the website. So go to totallyunprepared.info.
And, of course, we have a Facebook presence.
We do. Facebook, and of those videos, at least the video portion and the Braille portion are on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Yes. So today, we're going to chat about. We have 3 or 4 different things to go over.
Yes.
Not the least of which, let's talk about hate crimes in Louisiana.
Okay.
Now, we're not talking hate crimes in Louisiana based on, like, Civil War era Confederacy hate crimes. No, this is a whole new contrived version of hate crimes.
Now, hate crimes generally, by the way, I disagree with the whole concept of hate crime, period.
As do I.
But let me explain the legal basis so the audience understands, because a lot of people don't understand how the law works, okay? So if there's a guy standing here and I take umbrage with something he says, and I walk up and I punch him in the face, and he calls the cops, I get arrested for simple battery. Let's say, for the sake of argument, he's black, and I call him a nigger and then punch him in the face. Now, that's a hate crime under the way the law reads, so they can get me for simple battery with a hate crime, what do they call it?
Enhancement.
Enhancement, thank you.
Which is generally double.
Okay, so that's how hate crimes work, and they are based on civil rights law. That's the origin, the foundation of them. So hate crimes are things against, for instance, race, gender, religious beliefs, sexual orientation. Things that are covered under civil rights protections are what are addressed by hate crimes, the hate crime statutes. So you understand there's no such thing as a hate crime. If you just say, you know, you're gay and I hate you, that's not a hate crime. Okay. You have to commit a criminal act, and at that time have conveyed through some method, physical, verbal, whatever, conveyed that you attacked the person, at least in part, because of your problem with their civil rights.
Which, of course, there's a lot of contention that white males cannot be the victims of hate crime because we can only be haters in the eyes of the law. That's the interesting thing about it. I was in Hawaii on a trip, and there was a white guy in the Hawaiian homelands on the northwest coast of Oahu, up on the west end there, who had gotten he and his girlfriend or wife had gotten the ever-loving hell beat out of them, while the native folks that were there were calling them howlies, up one side and down the other, and the DA said it's not a hate crime.
I think that's a questionable call. But so in Louisiana, and I want to be clear that this is not just happening in Louisiana. These laws are being proposed in a lot of different states now.
You can expect them to come through Nevada in the next session.
If you attack a police officer or any first responder, and you do or say something that indicates you are attacking them because of their job, this is now a hate crime. Now, by the way, the Louisiana governor did sign that bill, so it is a law in Louisiana, and it is an unconstitutional law, and it's a law that must fail constitutional scrutiny by the federal courts, because you cannot have a hate crime based on somebody's voluntary choice of employment. Okay, so what's next? Hate crime for people who work in daycare centers? I hate daycare workers! Oh, hate crime, now you get an enhancement?
Yeah, or the guy that dumps your trash.
Yeah, the trash collector, No, it's an absurd proposition, and because hate crimes are based on civil rights laws don't cover your choice of employment. So but what it is it's a vote getter, because polls show that 58% of Americans believe that cops are under siege. Okay, and it's completely false. About 6 months ago, I did a video which appears on the website DaveChampionsLiberty.com, not to be confused with Dave Champions Liberty Facebook page. DaveChampionsLiberty.com. You can click on blog and you can go find this. It's entitled something like "There is no war on police," and I take this actual statistics provided by the government, and I show that in 2015, the attacks against police officers were at a 20-year low. And yet, the police lobby has been so successful at getting the media to cover violence against police that the public wrongfully believes that that there's a war against cops, when the statistics indicate exactly the opposite.
Yeah, and of course, all the cops talk about it too, so they believe they're under siege. So that's oftentimes a defense mechanism that they can use to try to justify their otherwise harsher actions.
Yeah, correct.
And speaking of this sort of thing, just real quick, I'm going to divert just a bit. Right now in Las Vegas, armed robberies of retail businesses are up 22%.
Since last year?
Since last year.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
The police are saying, look, don't take matters into your own hands. We're going to put more cops on the street and patrol more heavily. Okay.
So what happens? What happens when they do that and it continues to rise?
Yeah, well,
don't take anything in your own hands, though.
This last weekend, a clerk got shot in the face.
Yeah. You're the sovereign. You're the people. You're the guys in charge. Don't do anything.
So here's what my solution to that is. My solution is this. Go learn about defensive firearms. Go learn how to use them. Purchase of that firearm and have the same thing with your employees that are going to be face-to-face with these robbers.
Yeah. Train.
Yeah. And you gun these pricks down.
Yeah.
When they come in there waving a gun, a hatchet, a machete, a baseball bat, whatever, if you're in fear of imminent threat to loss of life or to suffer serious bodily injury, that's what you need to defend yourself. Now, pull out that gun or rack one in the chamber, whatever you've got, and start shooting them.
Yeah, and let me be clear from my personal preference, okay? Sorry if this sounds harsh, okay? When you come out, press. Do not come out and stand there and wait for them to drop their machete, drop their baseball bat, drop their sledgehammer, or whatever. Because I find it unacceptable. Guy comes in with a machete. Give me all the money or I'm going to kill you. You come out with a gun, he drops the machete, now he's unarmed and you can't shoot him. He was prepared to cut your head off until he knew you had a weapon that would trump his weapon. Okay? No. You don't get out. You don't get to save your life that way. If you were prepared to take my life when you thought the odds were in your favor, so come out, press. Do not come out and hesitate. If you have the justification, to shoot him, very critical issue. Shoot him. Do not stand there waiting until he drops the weapon, because then you let somebody who is a vicious, violent predator walk to do it to the next guy.
My 2 cents on this is my decision to shoot is made while the gun's still in the holster.
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, unless there's something where I might need to shoot and I don't want to be behind the curve with the gun in the holster, it might come out here. And then somebody's going to make me decide, they're going to make the decision whether or not they get shot by me. But in the scenario that you described, the decision to shoot was made before the gun ever got taken out of the holster.
Yeah, and I like the part where you say he's going to decide, because people, back when I worked down in the hood, people say, oh, aren't you afraid, to work down there? And I'm like, no, because, well, aren't you afraid that, my God, you might have to shoot somebody? And my answer was always the same. I have never chosen to shoot anybody. They made the decision, right? If they don't threaten my life, your life, or the lives of innocent people standing around, why the hell would I shoot them?
Yeah.
They make the choice, not me.
Which kind of brings us full circle on this whole thing. If these guys are out there and they're robbing these stores, they're making the decision to put other people's lives at risk by doing it. If the store owners and the people that are working in these stores make the decision that they're not going to be a victim, and these armed robbers start dropping like flies, they start getting killed regularly by all of these store clerks and store owners, the illusion, the whole
perception,
the idea of, hey, maybe we should go out and commit armed robbery for a living drops like a stone. Because whenever some armed robber goes in there, hey, 7 armed robbers have been killed over the weekend trying to knock off various places. 16 others were shot and wounded, are in hospitals and under police custody in the hospital.
And despite what is portrayed by Hollywood, where the criminal is always a mastermind and rough and rugged, and the good guy has to really go to the mat to win over this guy. This is not the case in real life. Okay, criminals are overwhelmingly, like 99.9% of them, are cowards. Okay?
Stupid cowards, as a matter of fact. They're dumb.
If you question this, go to YouTube and pull up, Google something like "citizen shoots bad guy." And they're usually videos from surveillance cameras. And watch what happens every single time. Watch one after another, after another, and after another. It's almost universal. Good guy comes out with a gun. Bad guy cannot get out of there fast enough. Even if he has a gun, he doesn't shoot, he runs. They're not trained and they're not brave. So it doesn't take, I don't want to say it doesn't take much, because to train with a gun, to have the mental training and the mental commitment and carry the gun and all that, it does take something.
You have to have the right, proper, what's referred to as a combat mindset.
Yeah.
And you got to know when to implement that combat mindset, when it's appropriate.
Yep. But I guess the take-home message, at least from my point of view, is when I say they're not brave, what I'm really getting at is if we, the citizenry, stand up to them. And in this particular case, as Bill's indicating, gun them down when they're in the midst of committing a violent felony. And as he points out, that gets around. It will end, and it will end overnight. Because they are cowards. As Bill says, once they wake up and they look at the headlines, not that they read, once they turn on the boob tube and they read that over the weekend 15 armed robbers were killed in Las Vegas, the armed robberies will come to a screeching halt.
Yeah, in order to be a successful criminal, first you must be alive. And if you're committing violent crimes...
Research shows criminals who are shot commit fewer crimes.
That is true. Criminals who are shot in the commission of a violent felony commit far less crimes over the rest of their lifetime because it's generally about that long.
Right.
So I would venture to put out there to the business owning communities of these retail type stores, and we're talking they're tobacco stores and check cashing stores and stab and grabs, AKA convenience stores, or shoot and scoot sometimes, my daughter calls them. Get trained up, get your staff trained up, and shoot these scumbags if they happen to come in.
Fight for what is yours.
Yeah.
And we'll be back. We'll see you next week.